We're here to talk about SEO. I get really excited about SEO, as you guys can see. I've been doing SEO for a long time, 2 decades. I love talking about SEO, thinking about SEO, and doing these conferences. Now, earlier this year, hi, my name's Dale. Earlier this year, I was offered a large web project. And these web projects are like catnip for me. Not only are they a payday for my agency, and quick aside, I run an SEO agency. We got 24 people on the staff. I have stress as an agency owner because I got to keep everybody employed and paid through the end of the year. They all have families and mouths to feed at home. And, oh wait, I'm sorry. This is not a therapy session. Sorry. That's my trauma, not yours. But this big project would have solved some problems for me professionally. Let's say it that way. Also, for the client that we were working with, they were a mortgage company, a national mortgage company. They were going through a time when interest rates were up and demand for mortgages had fallen through the floor. So they needed this project to succeed just to stay in business. The problem was that they were competing with the big boys in their space, the lending trees and the rocket mortgages. They had a lot going on. Now, I wanted to take this project, but I couldn't. And the reason why I couldn't take this project was because it was based on an outdated SEO and content strategy. Let me dive into it a little bit here. I'll tell you what they were trying to do. So they wanted to build thousands of pages of educational content for SEO. Now, I know all of us have done that at some point. They also were targeting keywords. They wanted to target keywords like first-time home buyer, and their strategy was to put the keywords in the title, put them on the page. They were going to get traffic, make a lot of money, and retire. Also, I mentioned that they had so much competition in their space. It really gets worse than that, though, because they were competing with Bank of America, Rocket Mortgage, Lending Tree. What I explained to the CEO of this national mortgage company is that he was trying to win a game against these big players that had already been played and won, and the winners were hoisted their trophies and posed for their photographs, and they had left the stadium. If he wanted to get into this game, he needed to start building this website out maybe 10 years ago with this strategy in order to make any headway with the site that he was planning to build. The other issue was that he was ignoring his own data. If you take a look at their site or look at their Google Ads account, the types of searches that were landing on their website and converting really well were mortgage rates searches, or loan type searches, or searches for a mortgage application. That's what was converting. In addition to that, the CTAs and conversion tactics that were actually working on their site were things like an interactive tool. It's a mortgage calculator to calculate your payment. After your website visitor puts some information into it, they get the payment number, and it dumps them right into the application. Easy breezy, that elevates conversion rates. Also, the comparison widgets were working really well, and other CTAs that would also dump people right into the mortgage application. But the biggest thing that made me cry is they were ignoring the future of search. Search is changing. We all know that. Everybody in this room has seen Google's AI overviews. Everybody in this room has tried ChatGPT at this point. We know that our customers are using these tools, trying them out. They're gonna be expecting that they can get direct answers to their questions. They're gonna expect that they can ask complex questions and have a follow-up conversation about them. They're gonna expect to get their information from alternate content formats, not just long-form articles. That is what their customers are going to be expecting going into 2025. Now, the reason why this was a hard conversation with their CEO is because I can't argue that his strategy isn't working today, because it is working today. There are many of you in this room who are creating informational content, and you'll take a look at your analytics after this talk and say, what was Dale talking about? It's still working for me today. But for a large project like this, $500,000 for a national mortgage company, they need to skate to where the puck is going. And one thing that we all know as marketers is that generative AI and Google's AI overviews are a better search experience for our customers, full stop. As soon as it becomes more widely understood and available, they will use it, and this is how they will make their purchase decisions. I'm also going to go out on a limb and tell you what I told him, which is your customers would rather use a conversational AI search engine that is wrong 5% of the time, but gives you a direct answer, than to work with an old school, let's say Google traditional search engine, where instead of a direct answer, it gives you a research project. It gives you 10 articles, 10 links, 10 pages to sift through and find the answer yourself. We're all human in this room, except for the AIs who are recording. And we know innately that humans are going to choose the lazy option. I should get a t-shirt. Humans always choose the lazy option. And the lazy option is an immediate answer that might be wrong. That's it. Oh, just in case I forget who I am, I'm Dale Bertrand. I run Fire and Spark. We're an SEO agency. We only do SEO strategy. We don't pretend to be world-class at anything else. I have a technical background, studied AI in grad school, built a supercomputer for the NSA, which I'm still talking about 15 years later. And we have a bunch of clients at our agency with logos. So we've all seen Google's AI overviews. By this point, I assume. They'll give you direct answers to your most important burning questions, like who is Jeff Bezos dating? These AI overviews are wonderful for your customers because they're going to give direct answers. And remember, your customers are lazy. But they're problematic for marketers like us in the room. They're problematic because they're going to steal traffic. They're already stealing traffic. Like what we're seeing in the data is a slight decline in organic traffic across many different properties. Everybody in this room has the same questions, like why is my traffic declining? But maybe we haven't shared that amongst ourselves. It's a conspiracy, people. It's Google stealing your traffic because Google wants to maintain its ad revenue, and their founders need to buy a third, fourth, and fifth jumbo 787 or whatever it is they fly nowadays. But that's really what's going on. And Google will, I'm going to go out on a limb again. Google will expand their AI overviews. There are people in this room, feel free to raise your hand and out yourself, who believe that when Google launched their AI overviews in May and then pulled them back because a small percentage of the answers that it was giving were wrong, that was the end of it. Oh yeah, they tried it, it didn't work. All right, let's all march back to the Stone Age, right? And maybe we should be using Lycos or Yahoo. God, I hope there's nobody here from Yahoo. But I'll say one other thing, and I want you guys to raise your hand. Who in here intentionally optimizes for Bing search engine? Oh, there are a few people. But I don't have a joke for that, but that's there are a few people. I should have prepared that one. The reason why the majority of you don't optimize for Bing is because that's not where your customers are. Up until today, your customers have been on Google, so it makes sense for you to optimize for Google to get your information, product, service, messages in front of your customers where they are. What we know is that they're starting to trickle over to new platforms, Perplexity.ai, ChatGPT, SearchGPT, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook search. They're starting to trickle over. Google is still the dominant search engine, and I believe that Google will stay the dominant search engine. And it's because they're going to expand AI overviews. They're going to figure out how to make them more accurate, even though we all know in our hearts that they don't need to be accurate. Digest that one for a second. There are many of us who are thinking, well, I don't know how accurate they're ever going to be. They're going to, AI lies to you. It hallucinates, like it has a fever, the flu, or it forgot to get its COVID shot. AI doesn't need to be perfect. If you believe that AI needs to be perfect in order for them to roll it out, just think about the web before AI. Was information on the web ever perfect? My kids believe that there are aliens that stalk the house at night that want to eat their brains. And I asked them, where did you get that idea? And they said, we read it on the internet. Like this, inaccuracies on the internet has always been there even before AI. So I've come to believe that our customers will be making this shift, whether we as marketers like it or not. And today's presentation is going to be about what I'm doing about it, where I'm putting my money, my time, because I personally don't want to risk my livelihood, which is my SEO agency, by publishing the wrong content, publishing last decade's content, or optimizing for the wrong search engine or the wrong search features. But like I said before, search behavior is changing. Now, how many of you are old enough, like I am, to remember the yellow pages? Anybody? Oh, hey, like half the people here. That's awesome. I wish I could do you like Oprah, like you get a car, you get a car. But if you remember the yellow pages, the government's probably going to take away your license soon anyway. So we'll see how that works out. The yellow pages taught us to search by looking for the category, maybe photographers, and then you call and some of them pick up the phone. Then Google came around. Google was a much better search experience. Sure, we all had to learn how to type in these cryptic keywords, things like ice cream Boston or best ski boots. Like, people don't talk that way. We've trained ourselves in thinking maybe we do talk that way. We don't. Now that we have generative AI, like chatbots like ChatGPT or Google's AI overviews, we can search in a much more natural way. I could say, my kids love ice cream. I would love to find an ice cream place near our hotel that has dairy-free options and isn't ridiculously expensive, or tourist-based or something like that. Like, I would love to be able to have a more natural conversation, ask follow-up questions, and importantly, what it needs to feel like is I'm having a conversation with a trusted, helpful expert. Or I'm getting this information and it feels like advice from a friend that actually cares that I get the right answer. And if it's wrong sometimes, and forget the internet, sometimes my friends are wrong. I'm not going to go there because this might be recorded, but I was going to give you an example. Now, because these new platforms are available and our customers are learning how to use generative AI search, customer journeys are changing. And we need to figure out, when we're doing our SEO strategy and content strategy, how we are going to adapt to the changes that are coming in customer journey. Now, I want to give you some examples here. Now, imagine a traditional search engine. So this is traditional search. Let's say it's Google before AI overviews. When your customers were going online, they'd be looking for information about whatever problem they have, and they're very early in their journey, and they might get that information from your website because you published educational content that they found through Google. Awesome, you got them to come to your website. Now you have the opportunity to move them farther through your funnel. Maybe you cookie them and hit them up with retargeting ads. Maybe you grab their email address and then try to convert them with your email marketing. Now, the goal of those retargeting ads or email marketing would be to send them to the sales page and get them to hit that buy button. Now, with generative AI search in Google's AI overviews, you could imagine that at the very beginning of your customer's journey, they're getting their information directly from Google. They're not landing on your website. That educational content that you published is simply training data for AI. That's it. You do have the opportunity in the world that is coming to target your customers once they've learned a little bit more about their problem, they've identified a few solutions and options, and you can hit them up with mid-funnel content. Mid-funnel content is different from that top-of-funnel, informational, educational content that we're used to writing for SEO. Mid-funnel content looks like comparison pages or interactive tools that can help your customers make a decision, or a very focused, very helpful visual buying guide, something like that in the middle of the funnel. And then you can use that to push them towards the sales page. So recognizing that the new technology is not just the technology, it's how your customers are making decisions differently and how that journey is going to look different going forward. Now, an upside of this is that we expect the people that land on our website to be higher quality visitors because they've already been educated by AI, maybe Google's AI overviews, maybe ChatGPT, whatever it is. Now, for the rest of my talk today, I'm going to go into exactly what I'm doing. And to figure out what I was doing, I talked to a few of my friends that work at some big brands because I wanted to know what these brands were doing to prepare for 2025. Because they're not stupid. They've got high-paid consultants that probably charge more than I do. Well, I know they charge more than I do. That are helping them understand the technology, helping them understand how their search behavior is changing in their market. And consultants that are helping them to measure how search behavior is changing in their market. Now, I found 5 opportunities that I'm going to go through in detail. The first one is to diversify content formats. Also, updating existing content rather than creating new content. And focusing on freshness, because Google's algorithm prefers fresh content for certain searches. And how to craft unique content, because Google doesn't need Me Too content that has already been published by one of your competitors. And investing wisely. This is a grab bag for a number of best practices that the marketers and SEO experts at these brands are following. Now let's start with diversifying content formats. There was a time that SEO was synonymous with blog articles. That makes me cry. I'm sorry. Like, there's a lot more that you can do than just blog articles, especially if your goal is to convert that traffic or push them farther down your funnel. Blog articles tend to rank for keywords that are informational. These are searches that are most likely to trigger an AI overview. Now, once again, back to the customer journey here. So imagine you have a friend at the beginning of the customer journey, and she's problem focused. She's thinking, my door lock is broken. And what she does is go to Google and type in door lock repair. The type of content you would expect her to find is educational content, informational articles. Maybe she's using a chatbot to figure this out. Then you have someone in the middle of the funnel, like who's solution focused, who's thinking, because they've already learned about their problem of a broken door lock, but this person's thinking, I want to upgrade to a smart lock, because that's what they learned. In this case, you would want to publish the comparison content or buying guides or the interactive tools, which I get excited about because you can create them with AI. You don't need a programmer anymore. I'm going to show you some examples of that. But if they're at the end of their journey, they're ready to buy, they might have narrowed their options down to one product or maybe 2 products, but they've got some final questions that need to be answered before they can hit that buy button. So in this case, they might be thinking, Google Nest has the best reviews, and they type in Google Nest door lock. The content you want them to land on with this search is a product page or a service page with a buy button or talk to or schedule a time to talk or something like that so they can talk to a salesperson. Now, I'm going to show you the content that we are focused on. This is content that would rank for searches that are least likely to trigger an AI overview, content that is more likely to convert, and content that Google's AI can't summarize. That's huge. First example here is data-driven comparisons. This is mid-funnel content. And if you're building out visual representations of the data, this is content that Google's AI cannot summarize. Next is guides and worksheets. If they're presenting complex information, once again, the more visual, the better. Google will have a hard time summarizing it. In the example I have here is your step-by-step tutorial for pivot tables. Then there are custom tools, as I talked about. These can be things like the old school mortgage calculator. Now, the web does not need another mortgage calculator, I get it. But there's a lot that you can do once you realize that you can generate these JavaScript tools that you can embed on any page on your website with AI. You could create comparison tools based on a spreadsheet or data. I created a widget that was how much should your SEO cost, where you click on a number of things, and I gave it a formula in the prompt, and it just generated it. I pasted it onto a page on my website. 5 minutes later, I was done. You don't need a programmer anymore to build these interactive tools. They're shareable on social media. They can help your customers make a buying decision. They can drive conversion by dumping your customers right into the application or help them hit that buy button, depending on what it is. But what I'm excited about is when you're the possibilities and opportunities are endless for building out these interactive tools using AI. The only limitation is your imagination, and there's a lot of people in this room. So we can get quite imaginative. And then there's templates and checklists. You can imagine putting these behind a form, or maybe they're not gated, however you want to do it. But then there's video. Video is important. We used to start SEO campaigns with written text content. Now, written text content is still important, just like many of you are going to tell me that educational content is still important. But video is so much more important nowadays for so many reasons that what I'm doing with my money and my agency and what I'm advising my clients to do is to start with video. If you want to build a piece of content, maybe it's a comparison, maybe it's an educational piece of content, do it on video first so that you have the video. Video is more discoverable, and also your competitors are probably not very good at video, which makes it a huge opportunity. I gave this advice to one of my friends, and he said, yeah, but Dale, I don't look good on video. And I said, well, then you're not going to look good in your videos. Like, I look like this in my videos. It's just life, right? Like, you kind of have to work with what God gave you. I'm sorry. I mean, that's been true since you were born. Use this QR code to get my slides. I'm going to give some more examples and some more prompts and that sort of thing. But video is becoming more and more important. There are more platforms that you can post video, like YouTube and TikTok. You can put them at the top of your existing pages, maybe some educational content that you've published in the past to improve conversion rates. Also, like, we all know intuitively that if you want to work with a brand, you want to work with a brand that's helpful, a brand that has your best interests at heart. And everybody says, oh, well, make video and make sure your video is authentic and it shows you in an authentic light. The reason why that works is because your customers are trying to decide, are these people out to help me, or are these people out to grab my credit card out of my wallet? And that comes across so much better in video than it does in written content. So now I'm going to talk about updating existing content, and this was huge among the marketers and SEO experts that I talked to. Many of them are shifting 80%, or at least the majority of their content resources towards updating the content that they already have, rather than focusing on building out a content strategy, content calendar, and building that out. Now, they still have a content strategy, but they're implementing that content strategy with content updates rather than brand new content. Now, I want to point out that content decay is real. There are many of you in this room who are looking at your organic analytics and seeing a slow, steady decline. That is a shared experience because of the changes that we are seeing in the marketplace, the changes we're seeing in search technology, and the changes that we are seeing in consumer search behavior right now. Now, this is an extreme example of content decay. This website had 500,000 visits several years back, and now they're down to almost 0. And that's because they're in the medical space and they have not updated their content in 5 or 10 years. Now, one thing you can do when you're updating content is to to answer more complex questions. You could imagine your content used to be quite shallow. It would answer questions about marketing salaries or the best job board or resume templates. But going forward, you might want to talk about, well, my personal experience negotiating salary or benefits, or what I think, my perspective on the impact of AI to certain marketing roles, or how I train my staff to mentor junior marketers. And then also we're focused on adding trust factors. There's a lot of different trust factors. This is just one example where we added the letters after the reviewer's name. We actually swapped out the author box and replaced it with a reviewed by box. Added the letters after the name, make sure that the institutions and medical school that this reviewer had gone to is mentioned, adding citations, all that good stuff. There's so many things you can do to add trust factors. This is going to help your conversion. It's going to help with customers coming to the site, but it will also help getting traffic to the site. Now this is important, so I'm going to pause for dramatic effect. I have a writer on my team. Her name is not Allie, and this is not her photo. I hired her because she's got an amazing skill set. She's just an awesome writer. She's A+ when it comes to pitching story ideas, telling stories, writing, editing, proofreading. Like, we do a lot of that, and she's gold. But there's one problem. The problem is that we're spending more of our resources on updating content, not writing new content. So we also have someone on our team, Erica, not her real name, not her real photo, but she's got a different skill set. Her skill set is crafting CTAs and messaging and offers, and doing visual design and data analysis and building visuals based on that data analysis, and doing competitor research and implementing our SEO strategy. Erica's skill set is more valuable to me in a world where I'm putting more resources into updating existing content than creating new content. I want to make sure the marketers in this room who are allocating budget understand that, so you're looking for the right skill sets when it comes to building out content going forward. But I also want to make sure that the writers in the room are updating their skill sets for where the market is headed for many brands. Now, the experts I talked to were also focused on freshness. Now, there are some searches, like imagine if people are looking for information about the election or the Olympics, where obviously a fresher article is going to be more valuable. And there might be other searches, let's say if somebody's trying to learn about Einstein's theories where freshness doesn't matter as much. What Google is doing is identifying how much freshness matters for the intent behind every search. Notice I didn't say keyword, because Google's looking at the intent behind the search. If freshness matters, Google's going to prioritize fresh content for that search. Now, the first thing to do here is to look for your best performing content. With all the optimizations that I'm talking about today, you don't want to optimize content that's not ranking, that's not indexed, that Google's ignoring. So always start with your best content. And that might be your best content by traffic or conversion or revenue. And you're going to look at Search Console or GA4 or maybe HubSpot, Shopify, or your CRM to figure out what your best content is. Now, one thing that's very curious to me, and I was really interested, has anybody here heard of the Google documentation leak? Raise your hand if you're an SEO nerd. Oh, several dozen of you are SEO nerds like me. So Google's documentation for one of its internal APIs was leaked, which means that we got to see what signals they're feeding into their ranking algorithm. Now, one thing you have to be careful about is we don't know how Google's using these signals that they're calculating. And what that means is we don't know what the weights are for each individual signal, but we do know what many of these signals are. I was very interested to learn that Google cares about dates. And Google's calculating many different dates for different pages on your website. Google's calculating a date based on the URL, if there happens to be one in the URL. Google's calculating a date if they're based on the date that happens to be in the page, if you have like an article dated or something like that. But there's also an inferred date, where Google will look at the content on the page. And you can imagine if this page is talking about the 2024 Summer Olympics in Paris, and it's talking about the Olympics in the past tense, they'll infer a different date than if this page is talking about the 24 Olympics in Paris in the future tense. So there's a lot of ways that Google can figure this out. What's important is that you are updating your content. It's hard to update the date in the URL, so I don't recommend that. But updating the date on the page, making sure that you're talking about relevant events and relevant developments that are happening that are related to the content on the page is important. That's what Google's looking for. And we're talking about adding new developments. Here's an example. This is an article on the BiggerPockets website about negotiating with your real estate agent. It turns out that there's some big developments in this space because the National Association of Realtors has been sued and they lost a lawsuit. So that's huge news. I would definitely want to mention it when I'm updating this page. You might not need a real estate agent and there are new commission rates. You just want to make sure that you're for your, and this isn't for every single page on your website, it's for your best performing pages. You want to make sure that you're updating them for freshness. And then also look at Google Trends. There's a lot you can do with Google Trends. Type in some of the keywords that are driving traffic to this page. See if Google Trends shows you anything new that's trending that you may not have known about. And you might also add a tool to your pages. Now, this is part of the prompt. I'm doing a workshop at this conference tomorrow where I'm giving away a lot more prompts, or you can just email me and I'll give you all my prompts because I have them in a PDF. But this is part of a prompt where I'm asking ChatGPT, I usually use Claude, to create an HTML page with a JavaScript tool that has these inputs and then uses this formula to calculate how much your monthly SEO cost should be based on how many websites you have, whether you're running a national campaign, how stiff your competition is, and how much money you want to put in your pocket at the end of the year, something like that. But these types of tools are so easy to create now with AI, it's ridiculous. You can create a tool like this based on a spreadsheet if that's what you have. Then there's crafting unique content. We want to make sure that instead of me too, copycat educational content, we're creating content that expresses our point of view on a topic. Or it's coming from our personal experience, or an SME in our organization and their personal experience. I have some examples here, like how my multicultural identity shaped my perspective as a leader, or it's time to take Medicare Advantage off the market, or neurodiversity in marketing, how my dyslexia helps me as a CMO. You can see that these are not Me Too copycat educational articles. They're based on lived experience and a personal perspective on a topic that is relevant to your audience. Now also, we want to make sure that you're designing your content for ease of consumption is really the best way to look at it. In this case, what we did, this is one of the clients that we worked with, we added a table of contents and a content summary and some Q&A and call-out boxes to an existing article. And what Google is looking for is how easy is it for the lazy human who is searching to find the answer that they're looking for. Then there's measuring unique. I love this because many of you, and I've done it too, so I'm guilty, have tried to use AI to write content. It doesn't work because AI is trained on the average of everything that's already been written online. So it can help you create average content that Google doesn't need. But you can use that to your advantage. Because AI knows what's average, and Google and AI knows what's already been written online, you can give it an article topic or a list of article topics or a content brief or an article and ask it to rate the novelty of these topics on a scale from 1 to 10 for a given persona. I usually give it whatever persona that I'm going after, and explain how it came to its rating. And a lot of times it'll tell you, well, Dale, something like this, I'll give you an example. This topic would be novel to the tech SaaS company CMO that you're targeting, but the way that you've structured it really makes it a 10 out of 10 in terms of novelty. Your persona has probably already seen articles like this, but not with this perspective or not with this structure, something like that. And that really blew me away, that it was able to help me in that way to build unique content. And like I said, you can give it a list of article topics, you can give it a content brief, articles, and it might help you to figure out what is novel and what is not novel in what you're trying to do. Now we're getting to investing wisely. So we've all got limited budget because that's the way the world works. We want to make sure that you're putting your time and your money and the budget that you've been given into the right places. We're expecting search behavior to change and search technology to change going into next year, but it will take some time. And the timeline for that change is going to be different in every market. For your brand, I mean, you might work with a B2B business that's targeting engineers. And engineers, they like to do what they do the way they do it pretty much forever. Or you might work with e-commerce sites that are way ahead of the curve. But either way, you want to know, are your customers using chat search? What are the number of words per query that they're typing into Google? And you would see this in your Google Search Console. Are the number of words increasing over time? Because that is one of the indicators we expect to see as your customers learn to use these generative AI search engines. And as they learn that Google can answer more complex queries with its generative AI. And you also want to monitor your brand's visibility in chat search. It's not as hard as it sounds, because you can honestly open up Perplexity and ChatGPT and search or ask it questions about the types of products you sell, ask it to give you the top brands for the types of products, see if you show up. And there are tools that will do this automatically for you. And it's also important to think about like old SEO versus how SEO is changing and how I'm recommending that you do SEO going forward. Old school SEO was text-based, and text-based content is still important. So don't hear me saying the text-based content is not important. But we're starting with video-based content, and we really want to repurpose from there. That's the best case. Now, keyword targeting is out. Putting the right keywords in your titles and in your content has been out for a while. Google is taking the keywords that your customers are searching for and figuring out what is the real intent behind this search, and then matching that with Google's understanding of what your content is actually about. So what that means is instead of writing an informative piece of content and putting the keywords in the right place, you want to make sure that you're answering the right questions, because Google knows what information your customers need to make a buying decision, and you want to be the brand and the website that has the content that answers those questions. Now, we've already talked about informational searches. They will decline slowly over time. It's not going to happen overnight. We're all still getting plenty of traffic today for informational searches, so you don't need to remind me of that. But it will decline over time, over the next couple years. So instead, we are moving down funnel with our content targeting, building more of those mid-funnel content formats, and also putting more effort into product pages and service pages where people convert. The way SEO used to work was that our jobs as an SEO was to build out a competitive advantage by finding an undiscovered keyword, a keyword that our competitors hadn't figured out that they should be targeting yet. But going forward, you're more likely to find that competitive advantage by finding a uniquely helpful content format. And it might be your clever interactive tool that you create with AI. It might be a visual comparison based on some data that you've been able, it might be proprietary data or data that you've been able to collect or analyze in a unique, different way. There's a lot of public data out there that you can get creative with. Or it might be switching from blog articles to niche buying guides that are super helpful to your customers. And then the last piece on here is old school SEO. We're focused on what new content do we need to create, usually blog articles, but for a lot of the brands that we work with that have been investing in SEO for a long time, the majority of the resources are going towards updating existing content. Now, I have an example here. This is a number of topics that I recommended back in 2013, working with a client that was running a big coupon site. I think it was rebates.com back in the day. So they're lame topics like buying new books on a budget, or cashback bargains for parents, or Thanksgiving dinner on a budget, things like that. But nowadays, the way that I would think about it is I would think about building out a page that is about cost analysis and having there be interactive tools on that page and helping people understand the long run and short run differences between new versus rented textbooks. Or I would have an economist write an article about cashback deals for new parents, maybe parents who just had a baby. And I would want to hear from an economist's perspective based on their experience and their training in their field, what they think new parents should do when they're looking for cashback deals. Or instead of how to do Thanksgiving dinner on a budget, I'd want to build a tool and some data visualization that's helpful around a Thanksgiving menu cost estimator based on the number of people and what you're planning to serve. You could serve turkey or you could serve filet mignon. Go with the steak if you want me to show up. Now I'm coming to the end of my presentation here. I think the last piece here that's super important, and I heard this from absolutely everybody that I talked to doing the research for my talk today. And it's that we as marketers need to educate the stakeholders in our organizations about the changes that we're all expecting to come to organic search and also search engines and our customers' buying behavior. And even more importantly, how these changes that are happening on the organic channel are going to affect multi-channel conversions and our efforts on other channels. Because we all know if somebody converts on maybe SEM or they convert in an email, they've probably been touched multiple times, depending on what channels you guys are on. So we want our CEO, I'm not going to go through all these, you guys make sure you grab my slides, but you want your CEO to understand how the business model might need to change as consumer behavior changes or hiring the right people or budgets as we shift resources. Your CMO needs to understand what we're talking about around customer journeys and multi-channel customer acquisition. And then also there's multi-platform SEO because Google is not the only game in town. We want our SMEs to understand that it's not just that information come out of their head. I want to know their personal perspective. And I want it to be rooted in experiences that they can tell stories about and help me understand those stories so I can get that out there and help our customers understand what the right buying decision might be for them. And the same with our content strategists and writers. I already talked about writers. I want my writers to adopt Erica's skill set, which is quite different from the skill set that I was hiring for when we were building out a lot of blog articles for SEO. And then my web developer, I used to be a programmer. You can't talk to coders, but I can say that because I have a CS degree. But yes, we want them to understand that there are going to be new page templates, and we're going to be building out these interactive tools. We want video to be something that we're good at, and we have on many pages on the site. We want them to understand how to repurpose and publish our video in many different places, and then build out schema markup for semantic search to help search engines and large language models understand the meaning of the words on our pages and everything else that we are publishing. Now, this is one last tidbit before I get to the end, which is I run an SEO agency, so when people call me, I ask them what I used to think was a really smart question, which was, how did you find us? And I asked them this question because I want to know what marketing is working. What I found recently is a better version of this question. Instead, I'm asking them, how did you search for us? How did you search for an SEO agency? And I'm getting different answers. Obviously, some people will say Google. Some people will say, oh, well, I talked to a friend, or I have a trusted, I have a friend in my CMO group that helped me find you guys. Or they might say, yeah, I've been using Perplexity.ai more than any other search engine. Or I tried ChatGPT, and it gave me a surprisingly good answer. But I've learned a bunch asking this question. So now we're on the last slide. I do have a DIY workbook. So everything that I talked about today, I have it broken down step by step in 5 steps with some detail, how to build out unique content, how to update the content you already have, how to make sure that your best performing content is fresh, how to allocate resources going forward. Grab this so that you can start working on building out and preparing and future-proofing your SEO strategy and your content strategy going into 2025 when we expect lots and lots of things to change. And the last thing I'll say, because I've gotten pushback when I've made these recommendations on venerable places like LinkedIn, is a number of people had said, well, Dale, how do you know any of this is going to happen? The truth is I don't. The best advice that I can give my clients, and the advice that I gave the mortgage company client that I told you about at the beginning of my talk today, is basically what I'm doing with my money, how I'm investing my dollars. My agency is my livelihood. and I'm hoping that I maintain my income so I can send my kids to college. And we get a lot of traffic from SEO, and I want to make sure that I'm investing my resources into my livelihood in the right way. So what I'm doing, what I presented today, is what I'm doing. It's the bet that I'm making so that I don't get caught flat-footed when these changes come. But I don't know the timeline, and I'm as curious as you guys are how quickly these changes are going to happen. I am quite certain that they will happen. It's a matter of, is it going to take a year? Is it going to take 3 years? We don't really know. I happen to think it's going to be faster, not slower, but we'll see. And thank you for your attention today.